My name is Malik. I'm actually working part-time at the Independent Archives. I'm trying to be a professional calligrapher, and I see myself more as a cultural worker and educator than an artist actually. A lot of people think that I just jumped into Chinese calligraphy. That's not really true. I had an experience to go to Japan. When I was in Japan, I saw all the signboards and I was very interested, like, oh, you know what, these signboards are very beautiful, you know? So eventually when I came back, I studied Japanese with a teacher called Arezumi Sensei. He also introduced me to a lot of Japanese culture, and apparently one of that was Japanese calligraphy. So before he left back to Japan, he actually gave me an inkstone and a brush, and he told me, Malik, I think you should pursue this. It seems like you are very interested in it and you have talent. So my first start was Japanese calligraphy. Eventually had to fly off back to Japan. So I was left alone. Eventually I read up and all that. Then I came out to the history of Japanese calligraphy. The very root of Japanese calligraphy is Chinese calligraphy. So that's when I started asking for Chinese teachers. So eventually I found out, late now, that it was actually a right move. I have two notable mentors. One's Mr. Ho Xiaoping and Mr. Yong Chong Tai. They both are professional artists. They have been quite a pillar for me. I first started studying calligraphy under Mr. Ho Xiaoping. So I managed to convince him to actually take me in as a student. Yeah, so that's when it all started. Then after that, I went to Mr. Yong. Mr. Ho formed the base. So Mr. Yong formed the artistic creativity after that. Yeah. I owe Mr. Yong a lot of that because he's a very good teacher. He's always at the service of others. I have a question or I have a technical fault, I'll come to him and ask him, and he immediately picks it up. Like, okay, here's your fault and all that. And I'm still studying with Mr. Yong.
他很热爱这个中国书法书法里面，你看我们从历代的文字里面有甲骨钟鼎小篆、大篆，行书、草书、隶书，他都兴趣学他不单说写一种所以我也是蛮喜欢教他这一类，尤其他学习的能力很强，他临摹，还有他很用功他不像普通人说，哎呀，我来这边上课一次，回家就不管了。他在家里写的，在这边还要写得多而且他是真的研究，他不是单单写字。
We have a class at the senior citizen corner. Yeah, it's actually more of an interest group rather than a class. So it's held every Wednesday night. It's just a small group of us. We come, we talk and all that. Yep. But I dare say I'm the youngest in the class lah. Yeah, and the only minority, the only Malay. They have always been a pillar of support for me because they're always encouraging me. Because I studied Chinese only for 1.5 years in Taiwan, 1 year in China. And calligraphy deals with very higher Mandarin. There's certain things that I don't understand, but they help me understand it. I don't like to do my calligraphy at home because I get very distracted. So I always do it near my mom's shop at the back alley. And it's smack in the middle of the city. So anytime I need to get inspiration, I can just walk around. To be a good artist is more of looking more than doing. You got to go look for inspiration and all that. Sometimes look beyond the books, sometimes look at books and all that. What are other people doing? How can I make it better? I don't confine myself only to Chinese calligraphy. Sometimes I look at Chinese paintings. So that I'm like, oh, very nice. And sometimes I go on the internet a lot and I see how it is. I'm trying to go beyond brush on rice paper and all that. I'm looking into other ways like performance art because I feel that those are very unexplored field in calligraphy. As I always ask myself, could I actually make it Singaporean? Because I believe calligraphy is very like I say, flexible, you can do it anyway. The question is, what are we going to do? And this is something that our artists can address. And I believe in the creativity of our artists. When I started out calligraphy, a lot of people say, oh, that's very hard. Being a Malay and all that, we do not really understand the concept of what calligraphy is. Because there are a lack of intellectual books about calligraphy. One of the things about Chinese calligraphy, it's a very literary art. It's practiced by the elite group. And I want to see how I can make calligraphy more palatable to the common man, you see. If a Malay student who did material science can get inspiration for it, why not everybody else? So I'm trying to make it so that even though you don't understand Mandarin, you can see it as a painting and you can practice it. As a Malay, whenever I deal with customs and dealing with Chinese customs, even with my own customs, sometimes I get very afraid. And I find that is the most hardest part than writing calligraphy, carving seals and all that, you see. So that's why I feel that a lot of Chinese calligraphers are very scared to be avant-garde, you see. Even more so me, is because being a Malay, right, so-called a foreigner, I don't want to offend people, and only now it dawned to me how important the role of a calligrapher in the Chinese society. I have always this dream of combining my calligraphy with my Chinese calligraphy and see where it is. But knowing more and more about Chinese calligraphy and how important it is to the Chinese, I get very scared. I started doing calligraphy, and in the pursuit of marrying the both worlds, I learned more about Malay cultures and Malay art. And I get more and more scared to combine the both. And that is something that every calligrapher will always carry, you see, the cultural baggage. When you want to do something of another culture, right, first of all, you have to find mentors in it. And a lot of friends. You have to get accepted into that community, you see. And how do you get accepted in that community is to keep a very open mind. Sometimes people will ask you about your culture, you see. So you have to be very aware about your own cultures. Like for example, when I do Chinese calligraphy, I keep on emphasizing that I'm Malay. And why do I do that sometimes? Sometimes it's for myself. And people welcome that because the fact that you know that you're Malay and all that, you have more to contribute to the Chinese field. The biggest challenges that I actually face, in fact, until today, is Mandarin. Mandarin is not easy. Yeah, in fact, like to be a calligrapher in the Chinese world, right, one must be able to carve, paint, calligraphy, and poetry. Those are the 4 pillars of Chinese calligraphy. I'm not worried about the carving, I'm not worried about the calligraphy, and I'm not worried about the painting. It's the poetry that scares me, you see. I've been told by someone that, it's too weird for a Malay to do calligraphy and all that. But those are very few lah. Those people are very, very few lah. I mean, I'm very fortunate because like the Malay community, my family, the Chinese community has been very supportive of me. Like Chinatown Council supported me when I was doing the Mooncake Festival. Then Yayasan Mendaki, with the Malay community, also supported me. Chinese calligraphy remains a passion with me is because I believe that Chinese calligraphy is a calling for me. That's all it is. Everything I've chanced upon, like I chanced upon Arizumi Sensei, I chanced upon my teachers in Taiwan, Singapore and China, all by chance. The very act of doing calligraphy is very humanistic because of the flexibility and the robustness of calligraphy that is able to actually adapt itself. Don't be afraid about not knowing the meaning first. In fact, some of my critics say, like when I started Chinese calligraphy, oh, you don't understand. Why even start? That's very sad to say that. When someone like Ahmad or Mutu wants to do it, don't stop him, you see. Don't judge him, let him do whatever he wants, encourage him. I hope that the people, and I wish that the people who does like Arabic calligraphy or Jawi script, I hope that the Malay community, or like for the people who wants to do Indian dance or what, the Indian community will be as open-minded as the Chinese community who accepted me. I hope one day, like, if I were to actually leave a legacy or what, right, that the legacy that I left was possible because of the open-mindedness of Singaporeans.